All right. All right, we are live. So welcome to Strategy. This series is your brand strategy in a crisis. I'm a one-man shop here. So welcome to Strategy. This series is entitled Your Brand Strategy in a Crisis, and this is actually episode number 3. So today we're going to talk about an actual crisis, the Bed Bath & Beyond, and are they really in a brand crisis? So, but first, just a few things. A quick reminder, you have your cheat sheet that I talked about in the previous episode, 50 most common questions an external audience will want to know when you're in a brand crisis. You can download it for free. You can take a minute, really maybe 15 minutes, maybe no more than 30 minutes to go through these questions to kind of prepare yourself and your team, right? And again, this is a full disclosure, it's a shortened version, something similar that Dr. Cavelio has created. But my version is created through the eyes of brand strategy, a brand strategy action plan geared towards community organizations and individuals who are trying to create social impact. So allow me to answer a couple of questions. So why is brand strategy in a crisis important? Why is brand strategy or having a brand strategy or executing a brand strategy in a crisis important? Well, brand strategy in a crisis is important because it helps organizations to protect their reputation, maintain their customer trust, right? During difficult times, during unforeseen times. A well-executed brand strategy can actually help community organizations and those in business, those who are dealing with social impact, emerge even stronger in the midst of that crisis, right? Stronger meaning like when the customers see how you handled a certain situation, how you handled themselves, how you stayed in contact, you stayed level-headed, you didn't disappear, right? They're gonna want to work with you more. So how do you develop a brand strategy in a crisis? Well, that's what this series is all about, your brand strategy in a crisis. Make sure to check out the past and upcoming videos, but I'll say this, developing a brand strategy in crisis involves conducting thorough analysis of the situation, right? Identifying the key stakeholders, developing important messages, key messages, creating a plan that communicates with your employees, with your customers, your clients, your other members of your staff, the essential individuals to your organizations, right? So hello, I am Dr. M. Stolard, Entrepreneurial Strategist, helping cultivate brand clarity for community organizations and those who create social impact. And we do this through strategy. So again, welcome to Strategy with Dr. M. Stolard. We're doing a series entitled Your Brand Strategy in a Crisis. So let's get into it. Bed Bath & Beyond, you may have heard it on the news, right? It's an organization that made $7.87 billion in 2022. I think their TTM, which is basically what they made in the last 12 months, I think it's closer to like maybe 6 billion and some change. I think where I got my information from was a site called Companies Market Cap. But this is an organization that sells, is like what the name says it does, right? Sells bath stuff and bed stuff and home goods would be a term that we use, okay? So let's go back a year ago. Well, maybe not quite a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, around August. And they stated they were putting some finances together, right? That was going to help them and be in a better position and, blah, 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 serve the customers and so forth. The blah, blah, blah to serve their customers, but, the money they're putting together to better put them in a better position, right? To secure some additional financing. Well, I'm not in their shop, but if you made $7 billion last year and then you continually had done well in the previous years, then, how's that money being managed, right? But again, this is not the finance piece. We do brand strategy and marketing here in entrepreneurship. So, well, obviously that plan didn't necessarily work, right? In my opinion, I think this is similar to the reason why Blockbuster videos, remember you should go on a Friday night, for those of you who remember, and you get to pick out a movie. Everyone gets to pick. I have a brother, and so my mom would be like, you can pick out a movie, and that was our weekend. It was a great weekend with some good food and so forth. And I think this is a scenario where Blockbuster, who was doing really well, didn't adjust to what was going on around them, right? They did not adjust, meaning you had the red box, and then you had obviously all the streaming stuff that started coming online, right? So Redbox was where instead of having to was like a kiosk, you can go, you use your credit card, and you can get a movie, and then after so many days, they may charge you $20-something, but then you can just keep the DVD. Whereas Blockbuster kept charging all these fees and get $200 fees, and sometimes people didn't feel it was worth it to bring it back, you know. But they didn't adjust with the times. With that, and they didn't adjust the times when it came to streaming. So, but anyway, another portion of that. We're going to talk about Amazon, but not so much directly, but that's another component, you know. But I'm going to state that, in my opinion, that Bed Bath & Beyond, they did not adjust their brand strategy, right? They continue to have high prices and do things the same way, and, you know, but they should have embraced a more online e-commerce based focus. You know, they should have fell in love with the internet. Brand strategy specifically is a specific plan of action that builds the reputation of the organization, and they just completely missed it, right? So, you know, in 2010, they made like $8.49 billion, right? And they had been increasing over time from before that. We had a steady climb all the way up to 2019, which was $11.35 billion. You know, in 2020, they kind of dropped back to 9.72, but a lot of businesses did that because of the pandemic, right? But you consistently made significant amounts of money this entire time. You know, so what happened? You know, but if you're making this kind of money, you know, without implementing an effective marketing plan, then that's the problem of leadership. But I don't necessarily mean the CEO. It's probably more the problem of the marketing department, right? Michelle Watkins, I'm not familiar with her. I don't know her personally, but she's the VP of marketing. She's been in that role since 2006, you know, and I think that would be the person to kind of talk to and see what's going on. They get paid significant amounts of money to basically try to predict the future. That's just part of their role, you know. Things were happening around them, they could see, and they just making adjustments, you know. And this is where maybe we talk about Amazon a little bit. If Amazon was doing something great, was doing well, why didn't Bed Bath & Beyond try to emulate some of that? You know, try to mimic some of that and say, you know what, maybe there's something we can do, try to follow suit, you know. So, you know, if it was me, what they could have done is to embrace being able to sell their items online a lot quicker, right? You had enough money, enough revenue coming in, right? You section off some of your website, you make a small version of your website, and you say, you know what, let's see what it looks like to sell certain products, right? They could have also lowered some of those prices as well. That's a different story, but probably the same story. They could have lowered some prices, right? I think one of the things that Amazon's done well is things that we're seeing is they're not so affordable, right? Their percentages are not that high. They're actually relatively small, but it's enough people that have been positioned to sell on Amazon, that can sell on Amazon, that Amazon, when you add up all the stuff together, the percentages, the small percentages, which is why they're kind of successful today. So they should have, and I understand, you know, it's easy for me to talk about hindsight is 2020, but creating a smaller version of their website, they could have called it the Bed Bath & Beyond outlet, right? The BBB outlet or something, some variation, and just tested it to see how online sales would have worked for them, you know. But what would have been the benefit is gathering the data, gathering that type of data, you know, that would have been crucial, you know, and they could have been able to compete with Amazon because they would have been able to been an online resource for that particular niche. History has shown, and stats have shown that if you are have a specific niche, specific area of expertise, then you have a chance of doing well and better in that segment than your competing companies, your competing organizations who may actually who may be doing your niche plus a whole bunch of other people's niches, right? So you test, right? And then you reposition. So you do the test, you gather the data, you interpret the data, right? And then you reposition yourself, right? Repositioning means to intentionally change the direction and to intentionally change the perception of you or your business or your organization. Repositioning is something that is done not on accident, has to be intentional. And that's, in my opinion, the responsibility of the VP. unless the CEO was like, don't do nothing, we keep everything the same, which, I'm not inside their boardroom, but obviously if they're having to shut down after being, a company that's been around for a long time, what they did do didn't work. Now, a lot of organizations, they miss this because they're scared to read the room, or scared to make a change. Repositioning allows you to correct the path and intentionally choose a different one. Another piece is that, is Bed Bath & Beyond, have they even been talking to their audience, right? Have they even been talking to their audience? If they're talking to their audience, they would have learned a lot of things along the way, how things are changing. What are they seeing that they like from other places, right? And your customers would be okay with some of these changes, but you just have to be able to talk with them. If you have a true relationship with them, you can make these adjustments along the way, and let them know you still love them. The reason why influencers have become so popular, at least the ones that are successful, is because they have a true, genuine relationship with their audience, right? Kev on Stage is an online influencer, so his wife was Kev on Stage. And, when he has successes, his audience, and I'm one of them, full disclosure, we celebrate his success. We're happy for his success because we feel we have a true connection with them, and that's something that was missing with Bed Bath & Beyond, where you just continue just to sit up top and not really try to engage with your customers directly. You could have kind of worked through that a little bit better. You could have started off 6 months out, letting them know, hey, you know what, getting ready to do something, getting ready to try something, but we need your insight, right? Then maybe 3 months out, hey, you know what, we're going to do that thing, but it's coming up. Sign up on this email list and be the first to know, right? Be the first to know. Do you have any guesses? Do you have any guesses on what's going on? You're just kind of building some engagement, give out some coupons. So, hey, y'all, we're trying to give out some coupons. We got to do some things and so forth. A month out, let them know, those who sign up in this email list will be the first to know, plus something special, right? And when it's here, let them know it's here. And we're testing this thing out. Go to this particular site, check out our inventory, bbbOutlet.com or something, that's someone else's website, my apologies. But make sure that particular site has, plenty of bandwidth, and just take a look at what it looks like to be 100% online, right? And at the time, you would just be 100% online on that particular site and see what it looks like, because you had the resources, and so that's a specific strategy you can implement it, and that data would have been so good, because then you would have learned more about what your customers are wanting, or whether they're not wanting. Is it strictly just the price? Is it just they don't like the product itself? I think one of the things that I heard is that you try to do a private label, and the quality wasn't that good. I was under the impression that Bed Bath & Beyond was supposed to have some really great quality. So they didn't have a good quality. So that ended up being a complete fail. You can't manipulate your customers. You got to give them the same type of quality you've always done, especially if you're known for having good quality. So, they made some other mistakes, obviously, but this is probably the biggest one, and I'm encouraged to look at it from a brand strategy perspective. So I guess the question at this point is, can they save the company now? I would need to know more information on the inside. If they called me and said, hey, Dr. M. Stolard, we need your help. I would say, let's first take a look at your audience in the last 5 years, compared to maybe the previous, then 10, 15 years ago, right? Let's look at the data. Is it truly the same audience? Has their core audience gotten older maybe, with the situation of Old Spice? Old Spice has been around for several decades, but what they realized is they needed an entire new audience, because, no disrespect, but most of the audience has gotten old and some are even passing. So if they were going to stay in business, they had to, figure out a way to circumvent that, right? To work through it. So they had to come up with a whole new audience. And I think they ran a Super Bowl campaign that kind of got everybody's attention. And they did this thing with a man on a horse. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's a football player. He said, look at your man, now back to me. Now look at your man, now back to me. Right? And so, but this was a commercial and a series of commercials that helped to save Old Spice. And now I think Terry Crews is actually the one that's actually the face of this Old Spice. Well, Terry Crews and then another gentleman who's a comedian. I want to say it's something Cole. But anyway, they've now been able to kind of rebrand themselves, reposition themselves, and get a whole new audience. And so that was something that would be important to learn proactively, right? So again, look at the last 5 years, who has been loyal to you, who has stayed loyal to you, and the people who left, reach out to them proactively and say, you know what, why'd you leave? Why haven't we been able to serve you properly? Another goal would be just to mimic Amazon, right? I'm not saying copy everything, but I'm saying that they're doing something well. Companies do it all the time, right? You can put your spin on stuff, but if they're doing well, meaning they have, online stores and so forth. So yeah, continue to shut down the stores. That's obviously they have to do. I can't see how they can get around that at this particular point. But pick up a couple locations and try to look into maybe making those places warehouses. Sometimes they probably have warehouses already they can possibly use, but see what it looks like to increase going 100% online, and create a unique marketing plan, right? Gets a few influencers. You don't have to change the name. Once upon a time, JCPenney was struggling and they changed to JCP and it just didn't work. It just didn't work out. But they didn't look at their core audience, right? I don't know if their core audience really understood JCP. You have to kind of let the customers know what you're doing. Brand strategy is also about communication. Brand strategy in a crisis is all about communication. It's about communication, communicating in an authentic form. So they're in a crisis right now, but they could have potentially saved themselves 2 or 3 years ago if they started implementing some of these things implement some of these things then, and then letting the customers know along the way and getting feedback from them versus just telling them what's going to happen, right? They can also try to get some influencers, to help rebrand or reposition the organization, right? Bed Bath & Beyond. Try to sell some products maybe directly through a few social media sites, depending on who their audience is. And I'm saying depending on who their audience is, right? It's just something that, TikTok seems to be super popular. That might be a space to look at, Are you cutting commercials that are 7 seconds long or 12 seconds long that get their attention? Because if you're not, then you're missing the boat, So that's all I have for you today. The call to action is to let me know your thoughts on this particular subject matter with Bed Bath & Beyond. Can the business be saved? From the marketing perspective, what do you think? If so, how? What would you suggest? I gave you my thoughts on it when it comes to the brand strategy piece. This is your brand strategy in a crisis series. So hello again. I'm saying goodbye. I'm Dr. M. Stolard. And remember to keep pushing forward, drive your influence. Remember to be intentional. And we do that by using strategy. All right.